am kind of flabbergasted that we are on episode 12 of DanDaDan already. It's Romania Black, and I'm really surprised that we're on DanDaDan episode 12 already, because it feels like we just started this series. I feel like it's not been 4 months or 3 months. I guess it's been 3 months because it's 12 episodes, but it doesn't feel like it's been that long. I feel like I just got started, and so I am really glad that season 2 is coming out later this summer, because that's gonna be great. I'm really happy about that, because having to wait, especially because I feel like we've spent so much time in this first season just getting to know the characters, getting to establish Ken and Momo's relationship, getting to kind of understand how the world building is going with the aliens and the yokai and all of that. I feel like we just got started and introduced to these characters, and now we're having to wait to see what's going to happen with them. It's frustrating. But a good kind of frustrating. It's a good frustrating. So I've got a couple comments about episode 10 that I'm going to go over with you all. Don't worry, I am going to address your comments in episodes 11 and 12 on Patreon and on YouTube. I have asked Geen and Truck, who have been the moderators for this series. Thank you so much, Geen and Truck, for taking time out of your day to read these people's comments and tell me if they're spoiling me. Thank you so much. You all are amazing, and I love that you love this show as much as I am loving it as well. So I did ask Geen the other day. I said, hey, I know episodes 11 and 12. Would you care to check the comments and make sure that people aren't going to, try to spoil what's going to happen next? And Geen was like, yes, I am totally on board with that. And I was like, thank you. So they're going to check the comments next couple weeks, and I'm still going to answer those. And then usually I am very cautious with comments. If people do have comments after we watch the series, it's not that I won't answer them, but I'll usually have the mods check them first and do that. So, but I'm excited because then we just have to wait till summer. Not very long. It's going to go by super fast. And then we're going to go from there. So I already have something planned for after this. But if you are on Patreon in the month of April, you might want to check your email, because there'll be some polls and things going on about that. So yay. But anyway, so I'm really excited for this episode. But let's talk about these comments for episode 10. Alexandra Q says, so Jiji shows up. Insert the face melting emoji. And let me tell you, when I read that, the face melting emoji is me with Jiji right now. I said last week, I'm like, I know it's probably going to be like an Ira situation where I will like him, maybe, but he's coming on really strong. And here's the thing. I was super suspicious about him last episode, being like, is he a secret villain? Is he all this? And then everybody on Discord is like, he's the most precious angel baby. And I'm like, am I wrong? Am I just theorizing for no reason? Is this all a red herring? Is me knowing other series have faked me out before and revealed secret villains making me feel prejudiced to do it here, and it's not going to be the case? I don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm sure I will end up liking him. But right now, he's kind of where I was with Ira at the beginning. My first impression of him is like, you are a lot, sir, and you're annoying. So we'll see where that goes. But maybe he'll end up changing my mind. But Alex Cornejo for episode 10 says, I take no credit for knowing this. I was just curious enough to look up what the reference was with Momo imitating the one guy. Their Columbo skit was referencing a similar Japanese show called Furuhata Ninzamburo. In particular, an actor called Masakazu Tamura, so similar to her grandma forcing her to do a Hiroshi Abe impression that everyone likes to tease Momo for her love of old school actors. I kind of like that. And they said, come to think of it, Death Note's L's awkward hunch posture might be referencing this actor as well. I love that. I kind of love that Momo loves old school actors. It, to me, reads that she's grown up with her grandmother who's watched those shows. So it's kind of like when you grow up with a grandparent and you kind of see the shows that they watch, you sort of understand those references, when a kid that didn't grow up with their grandparents and didn't see those things wouldn't know it as well. So I think that's really sweet. It's kind of like a little sweet underlayer of Momo's experience with her grandma. That's kind of cool. And then finally, Christopher Peterson says, oh, good. We see Ira's friends are still alive. So Momo didn't murder them in that abandoned warehouse. That's nice. Yeah, good confirmation. Momo's not committing homicide. Yay. Then they said, why is Grandma Psycho buying uniforms for all of them? In fact, where are Ken's parents? We haven't seen them at all or even heard about them being spoken about. Shouldn't they be the ones buying uniforms for Ken? I did want to address this. I think, and I replied to their comment with this, saying that I think the grandmother is buying uniforms for all of them so that their parents don't get suspicious. I'm sure Ken's parents are fine. I mean, we know Ira's dad's out there. We just haven't really seen him, but his study needs to be locked up at all costs from children. But I think Ken's parents are probably just like really normal and really like vanilla, and he's just like the weird little occult kid. But who knows? We might find out more about them. But I feel like the grandmother is buying all of them uniforms, because if Ken has been ripping up a uniform every single day, if he went home every single day, his parents would probably be like, why is your uniform getting ripped every day? Why are we buying you a new uniform? Who are you hanging out with? And so I feel like if Ken's parents know about his transformation or that he's ripping his uniform and connect it to Momo, they might tell him he can't hang out with her anymore, or that he doesn't need to be ripping his uniform anymore. And the grandma probably knows that Ken is so serious about stuff like that, that if his parents got onto him, he'd be like, well, guys, I can't hang out anymore because my parents said. So I feel like the grandma is bypassing all of those problems, especially with Ira too, where she's like, we don't need your dad getting involved in this. He's involved enough with the study. So she's probably just saying, I'll buy your uniforms so that your parents don't ask questions and you can still help us solve these problems. But, you know, you probably need to buy your own, get your own money. So that's my interpretation of it. But anyway, and speaking of grandma, she is a shit stirrer. I hope Momo was a real handful growing up to warrant this level of trolling. No, I feel like Psycho is just female Gojo. She's literally the female equivalent of Gojo, and that's fine. That's great. I'm curious if there's a female equivalent of another character. I guess maybe that's Turbo Granny. Maybe she does have a habit of swallowing balls as well. I'm going to stop there. But yeah, so thank you, Christopher, for that comment. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited to see season 2, but we got to get through this last episode first. And we know that there's a haunted house that Jiji is from. It's haunted, and he thinks there might be some spirits involved. Grandma says it might have something to do with the ball that was stolen, but we just saw in the last episode that the mannequin, the display dummy of the body used in anatomy and physiology classes, maybe had the ball, and they're now at the dump with it. And Ken has come to the realization that he loves Momo. I'm sure he'll be able to confess without any hurdles or obstacles in the way, and that she'll receive that confession and they'll sort things out like, you know, mature adults, except they're not, that they're teenagers and this world's chaotic, and that's probably not going to happen. So anyway, I'm excited to see this finale, and I hope you all are as well. But we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive right into DanDaDan, the season finale, episode 12. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. I cannot believe they ended an entire season with that moment. Oh my God! I mean, the stuff with Jiji and Ken finding out that there's an extra room in the house and that it's completely filled with these talismans from these ghosts that are possibly, or they could be connected with the aliens. We don't know. The aliens and the ghosts could be working together in a facet. We don't know yet. I mean, Ken brought up the idea in episode 10 that the ghosts are what's protecting the Earth, but as with any species or any different, you know, group of civilization, I'm sure there could be some yokai that have decided to work with the aliens. Who knows? And this is like an experiment. Who knows? We're going to talk about Jiji. But I'm not surprised they ended us with Ken and Jiji discovering that the inside of the house, there is some weird shit going on. Now, why Momo couldn't detect that weird stuff going on is interesting, that she couldn't detect it. But then again, here's the thing. Maybe she couldn't see it because we have the idea that Ken is connected to yokai, and Jiji seems like he's connected to yokai because of this one that keeps on like stalking him everywhere. So, or could be a part of him. It seems to me, I think the ghost is using Jiji like a parasite. I think the ghost has put himself inside of Jiji. It just hasn't awakened yet. And maybe in encountering the golden ball will allow that to happen. I don't know. But I feel like Jiji and Ken were able to see the extra room of the house because they've had interactions and or are mingled with yokai spirits. But Momo is not. So maybe that's why she couldn't, because it wasn't. The talismans could also be, you know, the drywall and the talismans could be preventing that energy from getting to Momo as well. But I'm not surprised they included that scene for like a cliffhanger. But to have Momo being held underwater by these creepy ghost or alien men while she's possibly drowning naked, that is, again, this series toes the line. They're like, oh, is she gonna get sexually assaulted? Who knows? And I'm like, DanDaDan, you write a very fine line, and you usually toe just around the edge of it where it doesn't get off into not good town, but we'll see. We'll see. Can't believe I have to wait till summer for that. Blah, 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 blah. I imagine a lot of people started reading the manga after this season to be like, we want to know what's going on, which good for the show because I'm sure that's their intent, but it is cruel that they planned out the second quarter come out this summer and just didn't go straight to it. How dare they? But if they get good animation out of it, then fine. Sure. Okay. I want to talk about this episode in Jiji and the idea of friendship and all that good stuff. So I do love the sweater that they give, the sweater and the beanie of Momo's that they give to the female mannequin. The character that's on I want to talk about the character that's on the sweater. That looks like Soul Evans. That looks like Soul Evans from Soul Eater. And the fact the bottom of it looks like a piano, that just is Soul Eater vibes. I'm here for it. I love it. But so we have this concept of the cursed house. I love that when the grandmother is scolding them, I feel like Jiji in this moment is a perfect representation of his character. He's just kind of sticking with formalities because he has to. He's bowed down with the rest of them because they're all doing it. And he's like, okay, I'll do that too. But he's trying to like tease Turbo Granny as well at the same time. What's funny is I feel like Turbo Granny kind of latched onto Ira a little bit because she just seemed like she latched onto her in those episodes. I feel like Jiji hates, I feel like Turbo Granny has no time for Jiji, which is hilarious to me. Now, if Jiji does have this parasite in him, or this ghost is using him like a parasite, does the grandma know about it? Is that a thing? Does Turbo Granny know about it as well? Do they just not care because they're like, well, we'll see how this plays out and send them to the house to figure out what's going on? I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be the case. We'll probably find out when season 2 starts. But yeah. So I love the idea they're basically they're using the grandma's house as a conjugal visit place for the two mannequins while they're going at it. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like the grandmother's house by the end of this is just going to be like, she's going to be a therapist walking in with all of these spiritually inclined beings. Why? I think the biggest question of all that's not answered and they just kind of like gloss over is the mannequins. The golden ball wasn't making them move, so how are they inhabited by spirits? They don't even explain that. They're just like, yeah, these mannequins just moving. I'm like, we're not going to go into more detail with that, so I don't know if the manga touches on it or if they're going to explain it in season 2 and touch base on it, but they're just like, yeah, just let the mannequins stay here. Why not? Why not? But anyway, so they found out that it was just a Christmas ornament hanging from it. I love that Turbo Granny just kicks Jiji. That gave me a little bit of satisfaction. And basically the mannequin makes his butt glow when he's courting. It can't be helped. So they decide they're just going to eat dinner. And then we have this issue with, I like everybody's outfits, by the way. I love Okarun's little sweater vest that makes him look so dorky and cute. And then Jiji looks like he's just straight up athletic jock. And then we have Momo with her cool, like little lungs hoodie, which is fun. So let's talk about this scene with the table where Gigi's like, wow, you have some amazing powers. And I can understand why Auntie, I love his cat scratches from Turbo Granny. And then he compliments Ken as well. So Jiji is like, he's this interesting combination because I did like Jiji more after this episode, but man, I get why Ken finds him insufferable at times, and it's so not fair. I find it interesting. I guess we'll talk about that fairness thing. Jiji is kind of this portrayal in Ken's mind of like the ideal man. Like Gigi's athletic, he's strong, he's funny, he seems like he's charming, like everybody's kind of wooed by his charms. He's really enigmatic, he's friendly, he's like got a good heart, it seems. Like he's everything that Ken thinks that he is not. which is so frustrating because I'm like, Ken, you are sweet. You are strong. You are funny. You have all this inner saboteur in you that's telling you that you're not, but you are different from Jiji, and that's okay. And it makes me so emotional and sad for Ken because he looks at Jiji and he's like, oh, I wish I could be like that. And I'm like, I don't want you to be like Jiji, right? And I feel like Momo, and the thing about it is that I like this, what this episode does is that it's very easy in romances to fall into the trope of, well, they're my enemy because they like the same person that I do. And at the end of the day, Momo's going to like who she likes, right? Momo's going to like whichever one she wants to. And they can't really do anything about that. And they kind of talk about that a little bit in this episode where Ken's like, but I love her. And Gigi's like, well, I like her too. And can't we be friends even if we both like her? And it's like, on the one hand, I think that it's smart that Momo lets them stay alone because she's like, she realizes on the train, she's like, Ken doesn't have a lot of friends. And Momo's the first friend he's really connected with. Do I think that he loves Momo based on their experiences and them and how they click? Yeah, I think that that's genuine. Do I think Momo loves him? Yeah, I think so too. And I think it matters a lot for Momo to love him because she has other friends. But for Ken's sake, I feel like Momo's like, you need to have some more friends too. You can't just rely upon me all the time and think that if you can't be with me, you're going to be alone. You need to develop some other friendships. And then if you still love me, then we'll go from there. And that's really mature. And I love the idea of Jiji wanting to be Ken's friend. Like, that's so awesome too. My thing is, I do understand Ken's frustration where he's like, but I love Momo. And Gigi's like, but so do I. And Ken kind of has a mentality of, well, you had your chance and you're just her childhood friend. But that kind of, what I love about it is it addresses the trope of, in so many anime, what is frustrating is that the woman's feelings are kind of just brushed aside and they're like, well, I'm going to win her over and I'm going to win her heart and I'm going to deserve to have her. And it kind of makes her a trophy, it kind of makes her a prize. I feel like Princess Jasmine in Disney's Aladdin where she's like, I'm not a prize to be won, and I feel like Ken and Jiji kind of skirt around that conversation in this episode. But at the end of the day, if Momo doesn't like Ken and she says that, then that's that. And if she doesn't like Jiji and she says it, that's that. But I feel like Jiji and Ken, I feel like Gigi's at the place where if she told him she didn't love him that way, he'd be like, okay. And the thing about it is, I don't know if Ken's in that place where he can accept her not having the same feeling. Because right now, Ken's like, oh, well, if she doesn't love me, I can't be around her. And it's like, well, yeah, I get why you think that. Because if you're somebody that's really jealous and if you feel like those feelings are unrequited, then yeah, I get why you wouldn't want to be around her. But he comes to that conclusion so easily without, giving it the option of having a friend. Like, it's like, you got to develop the friendship first, even if you love her. And she has to feel mutually about you back. And if she's not telling you that yet, then you need to let her have that space to make that decision. But I love the idea that, yeah, Ken does need friends. And I want Jiji and Ken to be friends. But man, I feel for Ken because I've been there where you see somebody that the person you likes and they seem perfect and you're like, what else can I do? So I feel for him. I really do. But whenever Jiji said, I wish I had some kind of power too, I'm like, well, if that's not foreshadowing and predicting what's going to happen, I feel like, of course, Jiji, you hang around with these people, you are going to have a power. He may already have a power and not realize it with the ghost that's inhabiting him, or I think it's inhabiting him. I don't know. But yeah, it is frustrating when you see someone flirting with someone that you care about and doing all the right things. And so you try to overcompensate. But the thing about it is that Momo loves Ken for being him. And even though I think she likes Jiji as a friend, and that's the thing too, is that Momo should be allowed to hang out with Jiji and be friends with him. Like, that's totally okay. If she just views them as childhood friends and she's like, oh yeah, we've got this connection, that's great. But I personally don't think she likes Jiji that way. I think she just likes him as a friend. But it's cool if she hangs out with Jiji and they bond and they have fun times. Like, that doesn't take away from her love of Ken. And I feel like so many romances, and the trope is, well, you can't have any other male friends because that might mean. Now, to that trope's credit, when Gigi's like, well, I love her too, and Ken's like, well, that's not fair. I like, to the credit, you get why that is, but I don't know. I always feel like I had a friend that was dating a guy, and one of our friends from high school, he was gay. And so we hung out with him a lot, like a lot. And obviously, he's not attracted to women. So we hung out with him all the time. And her boyfriend, I remember he got mad at her because he was like, well, you can't hang out with him. He's a guy. And she's like, he's not attracted to women. It's fine. And even if he was attracted to women, we're just friends. It's okay. And he just couldn't see past it. Even the fact that we were like, there's no chance in hell he's ever going to try to make a move on your girlfriend. He still wouldn't. He was like, well, you can't hang out with him. And they're not together anymore, by the way. So, but it was just one of those things where he could not look past he was so insecure about himself that he was so insecure about himself and that person accepting him that he couldn't stand the thought of her being with another man because he was afraid that she was going to like them better than him, even though we were like, that's never going to happen, but okay. And so I feel like Ken kind of, and I've been guilty of it too, because I can get that way with people, and I have to remind myself, I'm like, that's stupid, don't do that. But I feel like Ken, because he's just met Momo and they've just developed this relationship and she's his first crush, that he's having to try to work through the motions of, well, she's going to be around Jiji and that should be okay, right? And why do I feel so insecure about this? I don't want to feel bad about this. I need to focus on something else. Like, I feel bad for him. I'm glad that Ken has worked through a lot of his like darker emotions about this, where he's like, I'm really sad they just cut straight to this and we didn't get to see like the conversation afterwards, because I thought he was gonna like confess or do something like that, and we just instantly cut to this, and I'm like, are you joking? So grumble, grumble, grumble. He's like, but if I don't do anything right here now, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. So he tries his hardest to like do things too. And the thing is, Jiji is really unaware until they get to playing soccer that Ken is like doing all, or maybe Jiji understands that he likes Momo and he's just not saying anything. He's like, I'm going to do my part and fight and try to help. Luckily, Momo's like, okay. But for a hot second, whenever Ken is like, I'm going to fight back, it very much was like Ira. Like Ken became Ira, where he's like, well, actually, I have a crush on him and you're in trouble. It's so fascinating because the way that Ira views Momo is as an obstacle between her and Ken, even though Ken has no interest in Ira, right? And it's kind of reversed because now Ken views Jiji as an obstacle between him and Momo, even though Momo really has no interest in Jiji. So it's so fascinating how the tables have turned. And I'm like, Ken, you are acting kind of like Ira. You're just not as chaotic. Which is wild. And Jiji is so easygoing. That cat toy is still right in front of him. He's so easygoing that he just kind of rolls with it. And Ken is not the roll with it type of person. So it's funny to see those dynamics play out against each other. So Ken's like, what do you mean you're going over Gigi's house? And I am glad that the miscommunication was handled instantly in this moment, because Momo's like, oh yeah, you weren't here when we talked about this. But she instantly clarifies, I was going to ask you to come along as well, because I want this exorcism to go right, and I want you there with me. And Ken's like, well, good. I'm glad you've asked me to come. Great. And he's like, yes, we'll just resolve it quickly, and then Jiji can go home. And the thing about it is, Gigi's like, sure, I want to go home. Great, that sounds awesome. I want my parents back. And, Momo kind of blushes in that moment because she's like, oh, okay, so it'll just be the two of us again. Okay. So, Momo's using Jiji somewhat as a buffer because she's not ready to be alone with Ken and have to confront those feelings. And Ken wants Jiji gone so he can confront her with those feelings. So it's just, I love the dynamics and where it's going with this. I'm glad what they did with Gigi's character that they did, although when he doesn't sleep at night and it's because of that creepy ghost, I don't know what to make with that. I'm very curious to see what they're going to do about it in season 2 and how that's going to roll. I guess we'll find out. I loved the joke of the mannequin, like crashing through the window. I don't know why he just didn't go down the stairs and do it the proper way instead of causing collateral damage at the school, but did it for the lulz. But that was a very funny moment of them trying to like go do the Ouija board in the school at night. That was really super funny. It's playing on a lot of like high school slice of life tropes, which is great. The thing of it is, though, he ends up finding an obstacle, gets hit by the truck, and has to put himself back together to get back to the mannequin. I thought that the scene was inadvertently a really cool representation of maybe like Ken and Momo's relationship, is that you have all of these factors getting in the way of Ken being able to confess and be with Momo, but Momo sticks around and she's patient and she waits. I feel like it's foreshadowing for basically their relationship, in that Momo's going to be a constant with Ken, being like patient with Ken, waiting for him to come around and admit that he likes her. And eventually, after all is said and done, Ken's going to be able to tell her how he feels and they're going to be able to be together. But I feel like it's the mangaka saying, hey, it's all going to work out all right, but Ken's probably going to go through some hell before we get to that point. And Momo's probably going to have to wait a while before he gets to that point to talk to her. So just be patient. We'll get there. But I love Momo waking up being like, hey, this is going to happen every day. Really? It felt very meta. It felt like the series saying this is going to happen for a while, so you're just going to have to deal with it. Also, I like Momo wearing kind of the grandma's clothes. Or is it vice versa? Does grandma wear her clothes? I guess we'll find out. Meanwhile, it says Gigi's room, keep out. And we see Jiji with, I like that he's represented by the purple light. I like that. Ira's the red light. The purple light's interesting because it's kind of the opposite of, it's sort of the opposite of the green light with Momo. But then with Turbo Granny and Silky, they were red light. So I don't know if this is alien or if it's ghostly with Jiji. But Gigi's like, I couldn't sleep either. The animation of him being like really frustrated by not being able to sleep is wild, because we never see Jiji look serious or angry except in this scene. Because then he like looks up and sees the ghost staring back at him, which it's creepy. I don't like it. It looks like an alien in his boxers. It looks creepy. Looks alien. I don't like it. Reminds me of the aliens. Nope. I guess we'll find out what's going on with them in season frickin' 2. So the Joker card with the alien pack, super cute. 2 of hearts. There's 2 guys chasing after Momo's heart. It's adorable. But yeah, what I like about it is that I like that I can't do it because of the glasses, but he does the cartoon eyes, Jiji does. I like that Jiji wants to be Ken's friend, and they actually do have some things in common. They both like Nessie. They're both super cool. But the thing about it is, it's easy to be jealous of a friend when they have a personality trait that you want. And so with Jiji and Momo, they have all this history, like growing up with the same candy store, and they know all the stories and the inside things. And this very much feels like how I would imagine when you integrate someone new that you're dating into a friend circle. Because, you know, when you start dating somebody that does not know your friend circle and you integrate them in, they're kind of like, I don't know the inside jokes. I don't know all the things that you all know. I don't get the knowledge you all share. So it can be very hard, I would imagine, for that person to kind of integrate into the friend group because you feel kind of like an outsider. And Ken kind of feels like that around Jiji and Momo because they have all this history and they're so friendly. And to Ken thinks that it makes him feel inadequate and that he's not good enough for Momo and he has all these shortcomings. But the thing about it is like Momo doesn't think anything less about Ken. I forget who says it, and so I'm not going to be able to find out who exactly the quote is from, and that bothers me as an English teacher that I can't cite my sources. But the one story is, the quotation is, you would be disappointed if you knew how little people actually think of you. And that's not to say, you know, that people don't care about you, but a lot of times we believe that everyone's thinking about us or viewing us in a negative way or criticizing us or being critical of us when they see us. Like Ken believes that Momo is finding him boring because he can't measure up to how energetic Jiji is. The reality is, Momo still thinks the exact same thing about Ken. She is not bothered by Ken or thinks that he's boring in this moment. She's just jiving with Jiji right now. And so that's the thing, is that we often think that if we're not the center of attention and not holding someone's attention the entire time, then they don't like us. But the reality is they're not even focused on that. They don't even think about that. So it's like you're being hypercritical of yourself for no reason, when the reality is you're fine the way that you are and they still like you. Like, she ends up asking him, like, are you okay? And then he ends up like talking about, I think it's interesting. Jiji thinks they're all telling dirty jokes, and she's like, no, it's not a dirty joke. There's a story behind it. And he's like, well, I'm going to make the hip joints the new dirty joke. And she's like, no, you're missing the point. So that's when Okaroon gets in talking about what he's interested in, which Momo happens to be interested in as well. Now, I did think it was interesting we had the sandworms from Dune on the back of the magazine, as well as the Hope Diamond from Titanic. What a random... Or are those supposed to be the worms from Tremors? They might be the worms from Tremors. Either way, it's hilarious that you have Titanic and Tremors and or Dune in the same magazine. So anyway, they talk about the shrine and everything, and Jiji reveals that he's kind of into the occult too, and the Kappas. And Ken and Jiji actually like bond over it, which is so nice. And I like the idea of Ken having a friend and Jiji wanting to be friends with him too. Like, it's super sweet. Like, I really like it. So they go into this town, which seems suspicious and creepy and overrun by aliens probably. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Not one bit, because they all seem like they've overrun this town. It's like I was hearing like Deliverance banjos playing in the background. Ding, 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 ding. It felt a little off-putting. My thing is, how did Jiji not notice all of this going down? But he does seem kind of oblivious sometimes, so maybe that tracks with his personality. It would make me suspicious of him, of being like, why didn't he notice all these weird things going on? But so I couldn't decide if it's just Jiji being like a secret baddie or if he's just that oblivious of a himbo. And the show is seeming to tell us he's that oblivious of a himbo. And I'm like, okay. So he's kind of polar opposite of Ira in that respect, because Ira's like critical of everything. She like notices everything. She's like, but this. And it's all tied to her cosmic destiny. Whereas Gigi's just like, want to play soccer? Okay. So they get up to the top of the hill after they crawl up so many stairs, which seems like it's foreshadowing that those stairs are going to be a problem later, especially if Jiji and Ken go to try to find Momo. It's going to cause problems. But they get to the house, they go on inside, and it seemed like, okay, the one that had its eyes open, when its eyes were open at the convenience store, its eyes were white, but now their eyes are kind of yellow. So do they have the golden balls? Also, they're smiling like the creepy aliens. I don't like it. I don't like the banana aliens being all up in this. Anyway, so Momo can't seem to detect any spirits, but that's because they're probably not letting themselves be known. And Jiji, I fully believe that Momo sent Jiji go get the juice so she could invite Ken over to have a moment with him, but he took too long to decide to sit down, and then she was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to let you guys work it out. I'm going to go to the hot spring. But I did like the perspective of her with the feet in front, like it could be something sexual, but they choose to not make it that way, which is interesting. But I'm like, Ken, just sit down with her. Sit down with her, buddy. He has so long to go. He has such a long way to go. Also, I really like the soccer posters that are hanging up in this house that they leased. They just rent the house. So Gigi's like, well, we could get in trouble for wrecking this house that we leased, but okay. All right, so they don't actually live there. They're just renting the house while his dad does work for the college that he's working for. Mm-hmm. Momo deliberately let them stay back together, so she's like, you guys need to become friends. And I like the idea that Momo's like, Ken needs a friend. He needs friends, and to me, I feel like she believes, like she trusts Jiji as a good person. He'll be a good friend for Ken. But to me, that's just one thing else too, is that she wants Ken to stay in their lives and she wants Ken to hang around. And so she's like, I want Ken to be in my life and to be here, but I also want him to have a friend, so he's not just clinging to me the whole time, right? So they play soccer, and that's when Ken's like, well, if I get better at soccer, maybe Momo will like me. And that's when Jiji asks if he loves Momo. And Ken's like, well, shit. So he's like, well, it's the first guy friend for Okaroon, so I'm sure I would just get in the way. Again, Momo's like, I don't want to bother them bro bonding, and their bro bonding ends up being them both admitting that they love Momo. So what do we do about this? My thing is, I feel like if Momo tells Jiji that she just likes him as a friend, Jiji will be okay with that. Because he seems like he's so go with the flow, roll with it. He'll be like, okay, cool, we'll still be friends. But I don't know if Ken would handle that the same way. At least not at this point. I don't think so. So, interesting. Then, of course, these creepy people show up. Of course, where the mountain and everything is blocked out and you can't see inside the bath. Convenient that these creepy guys show up. And I was like, well, here we go. And Gigi's like, well, you're a stubborn guy. I'll admit it. And he's like, I'm going to defeat you, Okaroon. I love it. I love because it's like Ira and Momo getting into it. And it's so funny because Ira, then what's hilarious is that it kind of flips the table where Jiji kind of becomes Ira in that moment, because now Gigi's like, oh, well, you love Momo? Well, I'm going to have to defeat you. And Ken's like, no, I'm going to win. And so now it's like Momo and Ira with Ken. This love square. I just need Ira and Jiji to get together. They seem like they'd be made for each other. I feel like Gigi's handsome and kind. And Jiji is sweet. He's a sweet himbo. He's a sweetheart. I feel like he would be really good for Ira because he's sweet and he's kind and he's strong and he's like all of these things that Ira would like. So we just need them to meet and casually get along together, right? Team Sherbert. But then they both notice that there's an extra room on the house. And they're like, when did that happen? There wasn't a room next to the foyer, was there? Was there at the beginning of the episode? Was it there at the beginning? I want to go back and see if they actually noticed it. Was it the beginning when they found the house? I want to get back up to the top of the stairs when they got there. Yeah, it's been there from the start. They just didn't say anything about it. Which again, Jiji being aloof, why not? And then they decide to knock through and see what's there. Okay. Yeah, I feel bad for Momo where she's like, why a girl in an anime got to deal with this bullshit? Am I right? But then, yeah, they look through. Okay, there are all of these talismans. Some of them have a triangle inside with like a little swirly and everything. And there's like multiple layers of all the talismans and everything. Uh-oh. And then as she's being targeted, of course, then they look inside. I want to see like what's in the room. It's just a room of talismans. That is wild. I wish we knew what they said. What is with this room? There's nothing inside but talismans. Damn it. And Momo is potentially about to be assaulted. Well, shit. What a weird episode to be a finale. Like it felt more like a cliffhanger episode that were like, oh, we're going to watch episode 13 next week. It felt more like a cliffhanger episode to get you ready for next week. But the cruelty is there is no episode next week. You have to wait till summer. How dare. So I've kind of already figured it out. I'm super organized with reactions on the channel, and if everything goes all right, how that will all end up. So I've been trying to plan out, and I have come to the conclusion that if I trace out when everything is going to be and how that works, I want to go back to tell you all what to expect, because next week we have something for the rest of April that's going to round out, and then my plan is to watch another series in the meantime. But the way that I've looked at it is it appears to me that at this moment, if I'm looking at when everything lines up, it looks to me that, oh my gosh. Yeah. So basically by the time that the Apothecary Diaries season 2 ends is going to be around July of this year. And when that happens, I think that on Wednesdays, instead of Tuesdays, on Wednesdays, we may pick up DanDaDan week to week once the Apothecary Diaries season 2 ends. That's my plan. That's my plan right now. We'll see if that actually holds any water, but that is my plan, that I'm going to watch week to week with you all season 2 of DanDaDan, because I love this show and I really, really, really want to watch it. So that's the plan. So I will be reacting to this summer when it comes out. It's just going to depend. Right now I'm thinking on Wednesdays, but we'll see where it goes to from here. But oh my God. To be fair, I'm ending this season on a positive note. I like Ira and Jiji more than I thought I would on the first glance, so that's good. I'm still suspicious about Jiji, but it might be something that's not even Gigi's fault, but I'm still a little suspicious, so we'll wait and see. But I'm not going to react to any trailers. I'm not going to react to any previews for season 2 because I want to go in completely blind, and I don't have a lot of time to wait between seasons. If it was going to be like years and years and years, sure, I'd watch a preview. But the fact that it's coming out in like 3 months, I think I'm going to be able to hold off till then. But yeah. So I hope y'all enjoyed this reaction discussion. I'm very curious to know your comments down below. But I can't wait for season 2. So there's going to be like a couple of manga reactions and a series in between this and season 2. But I'm sure time will fly. It always does. So I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. Thank you for joining me for season 1 of DanDaDan. I ended up really liking it. Before I sign off, I will say I was really apprehensive about this series at first because it toes the line so close, but it's so heartfelt and the character development is so good and it's so funny and there's such mystery to it that I've been kind of sucked into the series, and now I'm really excited for season 2. So thank you all for joining me on my DanDaDan journey so far. I'll be back this summer with season 2, but in the meantime, there's lots of other good shows on the channel, so I hope you give them a glance or two if you get time. But I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more of DanDaDan. See you then.